Hi, I'm John Stevens.
This is Matt Russell.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.
This is Pod Have Mercy.
All right, so let's get started. Welcome, Matt,
Hi, John. How are you?
Marlon, Chris.
What's going on? What's going on?
You guys, Matt's going to introduce our guest today in just a moment, but last week we had to take a week off.
We did.
It was not our choice.
No.
We had some COVID proximity alert,
Yeah.
right? So, Jeff.
We're not naming names. Oh, I guess we are naming names.
Jeff doesn't have a mic today, so let me just speak for Jeff. You know, they were in proximity of the COVID, so
But negative.
Negative
tests.
Everybody's negative, but we have to go through the protocol, and everybody has to quarantine and wear their mask. Got to do better. We got to do better. Anyway, Matt, why don't you tell everybody who's with us today and
Sure.
all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
Well, Marlon Lizama is with us, my partner in crime and one of my closest friends in my entire life, and then Chris, young Chris, is with us as well.
Bing, 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 bing.
Bing, bing.
And part of that is just having y'all on to be able to talk about some of the things that we visioned at the church at Chapelwood in terms of a new service that will begin, and then also the way that that's going to center around the arts, some of the expressions of that within the community that we'll create. But then also it's an emergence out of y'all's own friendship and your own work together too, both within your life as artists, as dancers, as community activists within kind of the global community, working with kind of kids all over the world, and having gotten to know y'all, just the creative way that you don't just approach obviously art, but the creative way you approach the way you engage with people. And I think one of the things that the church, as John and I have talked about this a lot, as the church moves forward, like the way of doing stuff is over, right? Yeah. In so many ways that we have to begin to take our cues and learn from folks that have been grinding, in a sense, in the community, in ways that we can learn from.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the things at Chapelwood, but I've just my whole life in thinking about being in ministry is we always say, how are we going to reach people we're not reaching? How are we going to speak a new word? And then it's the same people that have been in the church their whole life in the same room that try to create or do something that's going to reach different folk.
Yeah.
And, I think the COVID has just, sucked big every way. But I will say that it does give you some clarity about, and it takes away a little bit of that fear of changing things. Because as I tell people, it's like, who's going to come complain? Nobody's coming. I mean, so, but I just think, I don't know, God's just really doing something where it just takes all the fear away, and to say, let's just open the door wide, the swinging door, Howard Thurman, right? The swinging door. Yeah. It's like, let's get in the hearts of the people in our community. Let's let the people in the community get in our heart. Chapelwood's always been willing to take risks and try new things. And so it's like, let's get a diverse group of people together. Think about creating something new that's going to intersect faith and culture and art, and with the vision towards a new worship service, a worship, something that Chapelwood is a part of, but that expands beyond the walls. Yeah. And so that's where this whole thing is coming from. It's just to swing the doors wide open, really just to take a lot of risks.
Yeah, that's right.
I think a big key for Chris and I, and I hope I can speak for Chris, but I think I can and I should.
I'm right here. I can speak for myself.
I know, but
I'm right here.
I'm right here.
I think that we love people. And I think that growing up, especially in at-risk neighborhoods, you rely so much on people to get you through. And I think a big key for us, especially when we started in this artist journey, that we relied so much on people to not only to survive and pay the rent, but also for our sanity and our brotherhood. And you're talking about a bunch of kids that grew up without fathers. You know, what's that saying? Kids that grow up without fathers start collecting father figures. And it's so easy to collect the wrong ones, right? But when you have the right ones, it's so easy to just stick to those people. And so I discovered my tribe, you know, our tribe, you know, at a very early age of 15 years old. And at 15 years old, to be a part of a group of young men who basically all have the same obstacles and challenges, you learn to rely on each other, and you learn to say, I love you. And you learn to accept that I love you, and you fight for them. And so I think in the beginning, you go from just being scared of everyone and not trusting anyone. And then you find the beauty in people. And it's crazy because we found each other in the worst of times, right? I love that line. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, right? I love that line. That's one of the best lines ever written because it hits it on the head. It's just like we found each other under the worst circumstances, and it became the best circumstances, you know? So I think a lot of our faith and just a lot of what we practice comes from finding each other, so.
Yeah, and to touch on the I guess, loving people, to be honest, well, I know this is probably like a lot of people's story in whatever career path or whatever you're into, but man, for me, it wasn't like, I found everything through, I guess, people that influenced me. I found everything I'm pretty much into now came through like relationship. And even meeting these guys at a young age. I didn't meet Havikoro at a young age. Like they met each other at like 12, 13, 14, 15. I met them at like 22 years old. In the pursuit of wanting more through dance and entertainment and the arts. And just their world, what they had developed, what was established at the time that I met them was so like mind blowing to me. It made me drop everything that I was a part of before then to like link on to that, because like I knew it instantly, like this is what I wanted for the rest of my life. And this is where I need to be, because they're doing it already. So let me just sit back and humble myself and like get under that and learn as much as possible and position myself to be in the position that they have established over a amount of years, and to earn their respect and to get the calls like they got the calls. So not only did it open my eyes, but it also made me hungrier and made me want more, just because like if they can do it, I can do it type situation. And that wasn't through like a school, that wasn't through like neighborhood community centers, that wasn't through even not even through like family. Like a lot of times like people give things to like the younger generation or whatever. Like that was just me searching, and I found it. And once I found it, like I stuck with it. And then now I find myself in the position with younger dancers or just younger communities, doing the exact same things, even having the same conversations that I had with them at that age. And it's almost surreal when someone was like, man, like you're doing it, dude. Like that's dope. Like, how do I do that? And it's like, am I really doing it? Because I still see myself as that younger guy. I still see myself as that 21-year-old. Yeah, me too. That 22-year-old. So I'm like,
I'm 50 and I still think, look in the mirror, I'm like, I still think I look 18.
Yeah, so it's super surreal, like how things happen just by a relationship and meeting people and finding exactly what you're looking for. And I felt like, honestly, it was through God. Like God like literally led my path to where my heart was at, but I didn't know my heart was there. If that makes any sense. But like he knows us before we know ourselves. So he knew where my heart it was. I didn't know it until I got there. I was like, okay, God, this is it. So yeah,
that's great. So Havikoro, just for folks that don't know, is a dance troupe that Marlon, you were part of founding, right?
Yeah, I was there in the beginning, and Havikoro is basically right? is a crew of dancers that came together, and we started competing, and then we started getting really, really good. We started traveling the world. State Department picked us up. We started doing shows. Literally, I think. Collectively, we've traveled to over 80 countries, been competitive, to everything, to theater, to competitions, to workshops. I think we evolved into an artist collective from dancers. A lot of us found our niche in ourselves. Like I found that I loved poetry while I was breakdancing, I love the idea because we're meeting so many different people, and I love their stories, and I love to capture their stories in such a quick write-up, you know, of a person that you might meet or a situation that you came across. So, so from Havikoro, everyone started getting older and evolving and going to school and going on their own journeys. And I went the poetic route. Chris went the theater route. Mario, which is one of our older guys, he has his own creative art agency. And then Moy opened up the first hip hop school in which is now franchised all over the U.S. And it's amazing. It's amazing how supporting each other, like how like a bunch of kids would come together and let each other express themselves, and then at the end of the day say, I love you, I'll see you tomorrow. Like how powerful that was. And that was the ultimate, like, there was no drugs involved, there was no gangs, there was like, we were living in neighborhoods where there was gangs everywhere, but those things didn't touch us. They didn't touch us because we're Havikoro. You know what I mean? Like we're good. We're on our own world, you know? And so while others were suffering from being addicted to different drugs, to gangs, I mean, we buried a lot of friends from our neighborhood. But the fact that we were in Havikoro and we had each other, like, we're good.
Yeah. There's you and I've talked about this before, Marlon, but there's somebody that both our church knows, and you and I really love and respect, Father Gregory Boyle, who says that they used to have their saying was nothing stops a bullet like a job. And then a couple of years ago, they changed their slogan at Homeboy Industry to nothing stops a bullet like community. And when I think about Havikoro, when I think about the places that I've been affected, it's been those relationships that have buffered me, that have put me on the right path, that have saved me, that, you know, those, and I see when I hear y'all talk about Havikoro and your group of friends, that it seems like that there was this mutual saving that happened within community, where you protected each other, you took care of each other, you fought with each other, you know.
Accountability. For one, it's like, I mean, it's like weekly practices. If you came like the week, if you came the week coming up and you were looking sloppy, like it's embarrassing because like you look sloppy and people talk about you. So like in the midst of that, it's like, okay, between the practices, what are you doing? Like you're practicing. So like it kind of eliminates the distractions of like drugs, violence, or just doing random stuff, because like you want to look good because that next Friday there's a community practice or there's a competition coming up. So it was more so like we found something to focus on. And then everything else didn't hold as much weight as what we respected with our dance and with our art. We cared so much about it to where that was the only thing that kept our attention long enough to, like, I guess, establish ourselves in life. And also, even to bring it back, is like we loved, I would say, dance, and the dance and the arts made us love life. And to dig deeper into that, it's like I feel like sometimes when people don't love life is when you start losing the idea of life. But we love life because we love what we were doing in the life and the fruits of the labor, like traveling. And man, like you're leaving your neighborhood to go to India for 3 weeks or to London, to Paris, and all these things, and you come back and I'm like, bro, I just came back from London. Like, like you love that. Like you love sitting in, like you love being in Amsterdam on like cobblestone road, riding a bike, listening to Frank Ocean. Like you love that. Like this is life. And you come back to it and you come back home. It's like, I want more of that. So let me get to work. So like everything else kind of gets pushed out of the way because you got a taste of life. You left your neighborhood. We had a chance to leave, and it's so unfortunate that people don't get a chance, but we got a chance to leave our neighborhood and see life.
So the beauty of the everyday was what drove you guys, the friendship.
Or the idea of what everyday could be like.
You know, there's two things that make me think, Chris, when you're talking, one is vision and one's dislocation. So vision, when God gives you a vision, or even when you're in a group and you got a vision, right? That's power. that's pulling you into the future.
Yeah.
And so vision is basically, it's a picture of a preferred future. So you are where you are as your current reality, but now you got a vision of a preferred future. Riding a bike on cobblestone roads in Amsterdam, you know, that resounds. Of course, all I think is addicted to doing that.
It was, but
But still,
like,
when you're 20,
17-year-old century
The
architecture
picture came out great.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Picture was great.
The IG post was amazing.
But so I mean, even before you go, there's this image in your mind of what it might be, and that's power for you.
Yeah.
That's going to get, like you said, that's going to drive you to practice, drive you to be. The other thing is think about dislocation, and I think more growth happens when you talk about building community. The fact that you all traveled together, you went out of your regular space, right, your regular geography, and you went somewhere different. So you all went to a place together as a crew. That was a place none of you had ever been before.
Yeah.
You didn't know the culture, you didn't know the people, but you had each other.
Yeah.
It's just like when you take a mission trip from a church and you go to Mexico or you go to Africa or you go wherever you go. There's people who kind of live their life. Once they're dislocated and they're put in a different context and a culture, and they go deep together.
That's right.
The bonds. And they have a passion and a love for the place they go.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so true in y'all's stories.
Well, a big part of it is I think we all decided to be happy. And, you know, I think what I mean by that, it goes to everybody is focusing so much on what's going to set them up financially stable in their adulthood. And when we were 15, we weren't talking about that. Like, nobody was saying, man, I can't wait to be an accountant. You know, we were like, how do we make money off what we're doing, but still keep doing what we're doing? You know, and I think being happy was the goal. Alcoholism was really big in our group with our parents, and you know, you're growing up, you're seeing all this stuff. You know, we have friends that have seen family members be in prison, and you know, the whole thing, and but we built this like this little room for ourselves where we're like, as long as we're together, we're happy and we're going to be okay. Yeah. And we're going to help each other out. So there was people that were traveling a lot more than others. So we created, you know, opportunities for them to be able to experience those things. And we would take people with us. As long as you were with us, you're going to be with us everywhere, you know? And so I think for the most part, it was just the idea of, we didn't know what we were doing, but we knew that it felt right, and we knew that at least this we can control, right? We can't control how much money we don't have. We can't control how struggling my family is, but I can control this part of my life, you know? And so I remember having these discussions with friends, and I remember like someone's like, hey, move in with us. It'll be better for you here, you know? And so I grew up with the idea of church, but the idea of church in my family, it was very judgmental. It was very like, if you don't do right, you're going to hell. You know, I have an uncle who's a tent preacher in El Salvador, and if you hear his sermons, he is basically naming things that you shouldn't do or you're going to go to hell. Like, that's his sermon, and I'm just like, well, what about the love part? You know, and I have an aunt who was like, love. It's about saving people, and it's about telling people and making sure they're not going to hell. And I'm like, there has to be more to this, you know? And I think that's something that we figured out.
That's what Jesus said. He said, I didn't just come to give you life. I came to give you abundant life.
Yeah.
Life full.
Yeah.
And it's about, I think that's the acceptance that we always searched for, and we found it in each other. And so I think it was such a spiritual journey for all of us. And it was a very beautiful spiritual journey. And I think that's why we can connect with our communities and younger people, because we value what they value, because that's what we valued. You know, back in the day, in the 90s, if you say, I'm a B-boy, you know, everyone's looking at it like, what's that? You know? Now you see breakdancing in every single commercial. Yeah. You know, now it's going to be in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. You know,
is it really?
It's going to be in the Olympics.
Hey, do you know any coaches in the?
So yeah, there's going to be people from Havikoro that are involved in that, and there's gonna be a ton of people.
You're a coach?
From all over. No, they haven't said.
You're gonna get a gold medal?
No.
I want to wear it when you come back.
No, it's so there's gonna be people that are going to. It's gonna have a U.S. team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Korea
need-
team, Japan team,
Yeah,
and
you need
because
mentors, need coaches. It opens up a whole nother career path for someone.
That's awesome.
That's great.
yeah, and it's if it wasn't, and this is the thing is, it took people like Havikoro to give it value,
Yeah,
and to
that's
do
right.
it with integrity,
Yeah.
right. So you would like one of the things that is so funny whenever you go to a party, it's like, oh, you breakdance? Let me see some head spins. I'm just like, no, calm down. Like,
Well, you saw me doing my moves when I came out.
but we see it as jazz, we see it as tap, we see it as ballet.
Respect the art.
You know, and that's how we see what we do.
I don't do head spins anymore.
Anymore.
We've always seen it in that light. We saw it as not like, oh, it's just breakdancing. We saw it as like, this is our art.
Yeah.
This is hip hop. Hip hop was the one thing that Umbrella does and gave us the ability to express ourselves. So from the get go, we knew that we had to represent it right. And I think that's something that we passed down from our generation to Chris's generation. That's what Chris passing down to the younger generation. And so I think that's how you keep this thing going. But also that's how you build community with substance. You know, it's not being rebellious just to be rebellious. It's to be rebellious with substance, or to, you know, what are you rebelling against? Like, what do you want to do? You know?
Yeah, and I always think faith is better and deeper and more real. I'm always a fan of the invitation. So you talk about your uncle.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, it's not invitational.
No.
It's like when you think, I'm running away from something. I'm to get somewhere. I want to get in heaven, so I'm running away from hell. Right?
Yeah.
That's not really invitational. That's like fear.
Yeah.
And fear is not all that motivational. I mean, fear is actually very motivational, but it doesn't really get you to where you know. We talk about vision that empowers you.
Yeah.
That's what love does.
Yeah.
And so I think about like what we're talking about doing at Chapelwood, and you guys speaking into this and thinking we want to create communities that reflect exactly what you're talking about. That's what the church has always been and always should be. And I think what we've done is over the last, I guess in the 20th century, you know, once the church got established in the United States, it became very institutionalized. So we build the buildings on the corner, you know, had to maintain everything. You had to be prim and proper to come in, sit down, you know, and it lost its edge of what the church.
Absolutely.
That's why I think the way the culture, everybody laments how church is losing influence and all that. I think the church is better when it operates at the periphery, when it's operating in the margins.
Yeah.
When what you're seeing now in our culture, and we've talked about this before, is when the church sort of finds its place in the center of the culture, you know, accommodating the political leaders and the cultural leaders and trying to be at the table of the power, that's when we don't do well. That's when we lose our influence. And that's why a lot of young people and other folks like, I don't have anything to do with church.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look what they're supporting, look what they're doing. They don't speak out, you know, whatever. They're not for justice, they're not for equality, they're not for these things. It's like Christians are the worst people on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
some of them. Not all of them, but some
that
of
was
them.
a
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Like,
so
I-
it's just,
I-
I think that's what the church needs to be, is say, hey, we're getting pushed back out into the margins and everybody laments it. I actually think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, I woke up one day and I was the adult in the room, and that scared me. Like, if there's a fire, like, people are going to look to me like, what do we do? And I'm like, wait, calm down. Like, I don't know what to do either, you know?
Chill right now. First step is relax. Everybody just calm down.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah, but I think that's how me and my friends are seeing this thing now. Like, now, like, the guys that we grew up with, we're the adults. Like, we're the taxpayers. Like, you know, I just bought a house. Like, you know, like, what do you do with your hands? You know, like, but I think the cool thing now is that now we get to say, right? Like, we get to say the things that we want. When you're younger and your parents drag you to these places that you don't want to go to because you can't connect with it in any kind of way, I think now we have the power simply because we're like, well, I'll tell you what I want from your place.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to feel like the inclusivity. I want to feel the love, the same love that I got from Havikoro, from the arts and dance. Why can't I get that from faith?
Yeah.
You know, because if anybody should give that to me, it should be God, you know, because I think he's been such a big part of our life, because he's always kept us safe in the craziest places that we've traveled. We've always been safe. We've always made it back, you know. And I think now that we're the adults, you know, now that we have families and we want to give them that positive experience, you know, I think we should say something like, hey, it would be great if we did it like this.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you, Marlon, is like, you know this place. I mean, if you drive in this neighborhood and you come to this church, you're like, this is a rich neighborhood, bunch of white folks in a big church, whatever. But you've come in, you've got to know, you know what the heart of this place is.
Yeah.
And you're like, I love the heart of this place and what this place is about. Yeah. But this place is also the kind of place that says, Marlon, we need people like you to help now, you know, plant the seeds for other folks. We're going to give you the keys to the car, or at least with a team of people. And I think that's the way all churches should be, or all communities should be. Yeah. Because like I said, I mean, if it's going to be the same group that's been sitting in the room forever trying to go, hey, we need to do something new, let's start this because we saw it on TV one day, it works well. Yeah. It's like you said, you know, if we're really going to speak the language of the folks that are, you know, that we're trying to reach, we're going to have to think differently, operate differently, and have new people at the table.
My wife loves this place from the beginning. We came, first of all, she's been on me for years to be like, hey, you got to find us a church. So get on it, you know? And so when we came to Chapelwood, we're like, well, let's come to a service. And after the service, she was like, all right, we're coming here. Yeah. And I'm like, well, we can talk about it. She goes, no, we're coming. This is our church, you know? And so my job in my head, because I'm always so community driven, I'm like, all right, well, then if I'm coming here, I'm making sure my friends are coming here, you know, because we got to make this place a comfortable spot for me too, you know. And my wife is white. She's from Louisiana. She came from a very stable home background, and, you know, she waves at everyone and says hi. And I'm just like, what are you doing? But I think her introducing me to that world, it's been so good for me, right? Because I've been able to trust more people that are outside my circle. And sometimes people are nice just to be nice, and they're nice people, you know, and you got to give them a chance, you know. And so when I came here, I was like, man, this place is great. Yeah. How do I get my friends here? You know, and that's a conversation that I had with Matt. I'm like, I love it. It's great. We need to get my friends here because, you know, we need to jazz up this place. Yeah. You know, and I think that's the cool part. That's the cool part about it, is just that it's a chance to give my friends who are all fathers, right? Who all have families, who all have kids. We all have kids now, all of us, you know, a chance for us now to be friends at a different level, as fathers, as men that we grew up, you know, as positive leaders and things like that. But also it gives us a chance to experience this other part of life, which is that like spiritual life, you know. And I think we've always had it, but we never, I guess it was never in front of us, and that was never like the main objective. It went from, let's just survive together. Yeah. But now we're at a situation, now we're at a part in our life where we could do whatever we want. Yeah. You know, let's go to church together, you know?
To touch on, I mean, maybe I did. No, I'm playing. To touch on what you said earlier, is like, I feel like we're special, not just like us, but just in general, like people that know what you carry and what you bring to the table. And when someone asks you to come and be a part of something, I know for me personally, because I know my value and I know who I am, and I'll ask myself like, okay, cool, is this like taking from me, or is this gonna like fill me up, or am I gonna feel valued because I know what I hold in this space? And that's a different feel and a different conversation, because of course, like, you get invitations all the time. Come here. But at the same time, it's like, yo, like, to be honest with you, and this is not an arrogant thing. Sometimes I'm like, yo, like, I've outgrown this room like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And like now it's work. Now I'm drained when I
Yeah.
leave here, because you have all these people coming in. It's like they want to leech onto you because of your value. And the older I've gotten, and I guess the more I advanced in my career, I started to understand why now certain groups only hang with certain groups, just because of, like, they know what they carry, and they know if I expose this to someone that's not going to value it, it's going to drain it. And I think about that when we go, even like you said, even like going to church and different things like that. Like, I go to my grandmother's church sometimes, and I'm literally like, I go in, I sit, I'm quiet. Like, I don't want to do anything extra, just because I just feel like I may or may not be accepted in the room because of what I carry. But out the gate, like, I'm walking in already, like, I'm already like an all ball on the wall. Like, my hair is orange. Like, I'm not in a suit. I have like my clothes are like European fit. Like, I'm just like, it's just weird stuff. Like, my pants are above my ankle. It's like, but I'm not flooding. Like, it's intentional. This is why this is where I want to. This is me today. It might change next week, but it's like sometimes, like, I just don't feel. And that kind of, I guess that will, like, kind of pull you away from the essence of, like, why are you there? And to get the full interaction of the relationship, like, it should be like an intersection. I mean, not an intersection, but it should be like more lanes going and coming versus just like a one-way road.
That's right.
And that's what I've always, like, that's what I'm starting to look for now, is like that whole, like, to like oncoming traffic and incoming traffic, because I want to flow, because, like, I know what I can give, but I also know what I do need at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
And in order for me to stay in the space, I need to get something out of the space.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes, like, I say it to the wrong people and it sounds selfish. But in theory, when you think about it, that's exactly what it is. That's what a relationship is. Like, businesses only work together, they collaborate just because we're both going to shake each other's hands. I'm getting something in return, vice versa. And yeah, that's
well,
what I would
it's
touch
like
on.
it's like breathing. You know, John Wesley, who was one of the guy that founded the Methodist movement.
Yeah.
He said, we breathe in the grace of God and we exhale works, good works, and not that you're saved by good works, but it's a living, breathing exchange.
Yeah.
So you're breathing. Yeah. So when you're pouring out your gifts, you're adding something to something. But if that's all you do, it's like a well. You empty all the water out of it, and there's nothing you can get out of it.
Yeah.
At some point, you gotta figure out how to either replenish, charge your battery, if you use that term. I remember years ago someone was saying, the places where, sometimes you just have to dig the well deeper.
Nice.
I think spiritually, the well's got to be dug deeper because the water table's lower.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's sometimes if all we're doing is giving, you're going to burn out.
Real quick.
And you're going to feel like you're just being used.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like everybody wants a piece of me, but I don't think it's selfish at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a very real living condom. If you're a living organism, you have to eat, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say you take in and you take out, but let's go in a different direction. So Matt, what do you have to say? That's a natural way of things. And I think spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, that's one of the reasons why so many people now in this pandemic are struggling mental health issues, psychological, emotional, because, dude, everything is just taken out of them, and they've lost all of the resources and the connections with, like you said, the community.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If community is so important for you, and you don't have access to that community, or it's now limited to a fuzzy, pixelated Zoom screen, right? And that's all you get. That's not the same thing.
It's not.
It's not. It's not going to feed you the way when you're sitting in a room with your friends and you're eating together and drinking together and slapping each other on the back. It's like that's kind of been gone for some
experience.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's also a way to strengthen you to be able to be on your own also. One of the craziest story that I have about Chris, we did a tour of India and we literally toured India. Like where it's like, we know India.
3
We
weeks.
feel really comfortable with India. And we're at the airport And
This is a great story.
we're coming to Houston, and Chris is like, all right, guys, I'll see y'all later. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm going to go to Bangkok. I'm just going to go see what's up in Bangkok.
Yeah, I moved to Bangkok.
For like
And
for a
for a
minute.
year.
For a year.
I didn't know no one there.
So I was like,
A year?
And he
So
created
for
a dance studio there.
Wait, you
too,
just
didn't
went to Bangkok for a year?
yeah, I didn't know anyone there. I just hopped on because I told them I'm moving to Bangkok. No one believed me the whole trip.
I
And
thought you were messing.
yeah, like they thought I was best. So I was like, okay, cool. I guess the last day they'll find out. Like their terminal was that way, mine was that way. They were like, "Are you like when are you coming back?" I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
But the coolest thing about this is that he went and he created a life there.
Yeah.
He got like a studio.
Yeah, he
got
started
a
a whole
loft.
dance studio
like,
there.
Yo,
Crazy.
like, let's go visit Chris.
What was that old song? One Night in Bangkok? And that was 1 year in Bangkok.
Yeah, right?
But like, I think it's crazy because how many of us are that strong to be able to do something
Yeah.
like that? But I see church the same way, man. I see spirituality the same way. Like, you got to make me strong, you know, strong enough to, one, be by myself, but strong enough to be with other people.
Yeah.
Right. And to not fear other people. And I think that's the thing that hip hop and that brotherhood gave us, was that strength to do things on our own. And I think that's what I need from church. Right? Like, that's what I need. I need a brotherhood. I need a sisterhood. I need a community. But I also, when I'm by myself, I need to be strong enough to be by myself. Right? And my faith has got me. My spirituality has got me. And I think a lot of people, when it's on their own, when they're doing, like, that's why you see them doing some crazy stuff and you're like, man, I just saw you at church, man. Why are you doing that? Because when they're on their own, it's just they're not strong enough to be on their own.
Yeah.
And they need that constant guilt, right? Or that constant reminder of like, hey, what would Jesus do? You know, I shouldn't need a bracelet to tell me like,
have
hey,
mine.
don't. Right from,
My daughter gave it to me.
nice.
But it's,
I thought we were about to go deep. I was like, oh,
but it's what would Jesus do? But it's HWLF. He would love first.
See,
See, so I
That's nice.
got mine's extra.
nice. No, that's nice. That's nice.
nice.
But that's what it is. I think it's really about, I want to be strong enough in every aspect of life, not only when I'm with my community, not only when I'm with my brothers or my church or my family. I want to be strong enough all the time, you know? And I think that's what this brotherhood did. And I bring out the story with Chris because, man, that was so crazy to me. And on the 20-hour flight back from India, I was like, why did he leave? Did he hate us? You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
But you know what I hear in the story? Same thing Chris was saying a minute ago. It's like that community you had for those 3 months or how long y'all were in India, pouring into each other. He's full now at this point.
Yeah.
He's ready. I mean, he knew he was going to
does.
Bangkok, but he's ready to walk down the terminal and go because he's filled up. Now he's ready to go. I mean, that's the way I hear it. It's like,
But that's how I see it. It's
and
just
you were
like,
just grieving. He's like, he's
I
gone to Bangkok.
was because it was like,
I'm
yo, I'm
like
not
walking
gonna
with a
see
big
it.
smile on my face. I'm out of here.
Yeah, like he was
See you on
like,
Facebook.
but we're over here like just like, why is Chris leaving us? But
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I think when there's people that say I love you, like you feel the love, and then there's people that like they say I love you and it doesn't feel right.
Well, and you guys created a relationship that you could push off of, almost like something you could push off of and create momentum in a different direction, you know? And so those friendships, like your love for each other, your community, you're spending time with each other, you're doing things that create a value in the world and value personally. Then when it's time to go your own way, you had something to push off of. You weren't dependent. It wasn't like codependency.
Yeah. No.
One of the things I've been watching you guys for a long time, both Havikoro and both you individually, both as artists, and you, I have much more of a Marlon, a much more front row seat to. But one of the things I find really amazing in terms of y'all's spirituality is that it's unbounded. And what I mean by that is that you don't have a place in your life called your Christian life, and it occupies that.
Oh no.
Right,
Yeah.
and that all of then your Christian life fits inside the circumference of a dime.
Yeah.
You have this thing called your life, and it's all spiritual.
Yeah.
And so when you come to a church that says, actually, we need to reteach you this, you've got to shove all of that into the circumference of a dime.
Yeah.
You guys go, I can't put on a shirt that's 12 sizes too small. Like you said, I've outgrown the room.
Yeah.
And many times what the church hasn't done is has not been willing to grow to the size of who would Jesus love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's bracelet, right? So we've already determined that. What you believe, you tell me what you believe, I'll tell you if you belong, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have understood that belonging is created outside of all of that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think now we have, the church is in a place of being super curious, super understanding that God operates in boundless ways.
Yeah.
And I think y'all have much more to teach us going forward than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah. So for like a small perspective, I'm the only child. So I'm the only child and the oldest grandchild. So for a minute, I was like the only like child in the family for a long time. And my mom was also not as open. Like you look at me like, man, you had a good time like growing up as far as like being social and going out. My mom was like, nah, like she didn't approve of like no outings or anything like that. So I had to get creative on like going to parties and doing things like that. So that kind of just grew on me growing up as just like being independent. And then of course there was a spurt of where like I was just like, I didn't have I was just like, I won't say wild, but I was just exploring. I was just whatever. And then I grasped a relationship with God. And from there, I learned I re-educated myself. I was re-educated on what Christianity is, who is Jesus, who is God, what is religion, what is not religion, and all those things. And through that learning and that teaching, gave me the freedom and the confidence to be me fully, but not the experience. So like even through meeting Havikoro, all those moments, like I never was like these guys, but I wasn't the weakest one in the room. That makes any sense. Like that wasn't like a hindrance for me, because you put some people in the room that's not like everyone else, and they feel indifferent, less than exactly. Yeah. And I never felt that way, just because like I always like I felt like I had all these things, and this is who God made me, and these are my abilities. I learned quick what I can and can't do, and then from that I built off of what I can do, and just knew like, yo, I can't do that, and I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to look like an idiot. So even so, through all those experiences, became like an artist's life. So now. It was a point of life where it's like, okay, cool. Like, what does art look like as a Christian or as a believer? Because of course, when you tell the older generation, like, hey, mom, I'm dating an artist. Like the first thing they go into their head is like drugs, sex, alcohol, out all night, all et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
How they paying bills?
Exactly. Like, like you're just like the scum of earth. Like you just.
What else do they do?
The menace of society. Exactly. But. It wasn't like and of course, like we've come across that, we've seen that, and for me, it was like, yo, like I love going out. Like I'm gonna be straight up. I love going to clubs. I love going to bars. I love the conversations. I love the music, and I'm a dancer. I'm a social dancer. So like you can scold me all day about this, and you shouldn't be in those spaces. You shouldn't do this. Oh, I got a great story. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But I'm like, okay, cool. That's great and all, but like I'm me. This is what I do. I went on a mission trip to London. My first time overseas, a London mission trip. I don't remember the church. So they sent it was Trey Nine and me, Trey Nine and another dancer or whatever. They sent us to London, they sent us to England. It's like Rotherham, England, like 45 minutes outside of London. So connected with the youth, connected with everyone. And one of the guys, and I went there just to teach dance. And one of the guys I became really cool with, he was like, hey man, there's a club here, like down the street. Like, do you want to go? I'm like, of course, yes, let's go. So go to the club, like we're out dancing, hanging, having a good time. Like we're not drinking, we're not doing nothing. Like we're just dancing. The very next day, the church found out. They had a sit down with me about how wrong that was, and all these things. Like one of the youth pastors, I was performing, and like my jacket came up. He was like, "Yeah, man, you seen your underwear?" And like I was like, "Dude, that's my undershirt." Like it was like I was judged so much based off of just my lifestyle coming from like the church. And I was like, wow, like this is crazy. But it didn't affect me in no way because I'm still gonna be me regardless. But I was just thinking, like, I'm like, wow, that's so crazy because like while you're telling me about what I can't do and scolding me for who I am, like the question back to you is, do you really know who you are? Or do you just know the rules of this subculture that you're a part of, that you're trying to like apply on me? But it seems like in the midst of this room, I should be talking to you all about what you should and shouldn't do versus you talking to me, because I feel like I have the ultimate freedom right now.
Yeah.
Y'all have a lot of laws and like you look miserable.
That sounds like half the parables that or stories in the gospel when Jesus.
It's the entire New Testament. I mean, the sad thing is that churches. What's the term we used in seminary or they learned was like reification. It's where you take grace, you take something that has no substance, and you give it substance so you can control it and dole it out, like grace, right? Yeah. Now I control the grace, and I determine, well, the way you're dressed, Chris, you don't get any grace today. Maybe no, you. And it's like that's not the way grace works. That's like that's just totally not the scriptures. And I think people think it has a lot to do with their personalities and the world they live in. Yeah. Some people read the Bible and they read it through the lens. It's very judgmental legalism. They see God as a big cosmic judge sitting on a throne waiting for you to get out of line and getting, come down hard on you. Yeah. And then, I read it through, and I don't want to say that other people are wrong, but they are. It's just that, Jesus is the Word made flesh. That's what the Bible says. So when you say the Word of God, the Bible's never really referred to as the Word of God. Jesus is the Word made flesh. Mm-hmm. So when you want to know who God is, what God looks like, what God thinks, how God acts, how God loves you, look at the life of Jesus. Yeah. And then all the Scripture has to be read through the lens of the life of Jesus instead of isolated on its own. Yeah. And that's what a lot of Christians, I think we've gotten wrong all along the way, is it's like, Howard Thurman, we were talking about, I'll find the quote in a minute, but it's like, the greatest place of our freedom is when we find our way into another's heart. Yes. And when we allow others into our heart. Ooh. And he said, that's a swinging door. Our hearts need to be a swinging door.
Yeah. I think that's where Iconoclast came from, to be honest with you. Yeah. When I met Matt and he was like, let's do this. And he was like, now I'm working with the church. Are you okay with that? And in my mind, I'm like, why shouldn't I be? I'm doing good work. There's nothing that I do outside this church that is not good work. I work with young people that need a voice, that need support, that need to be able to tell their story, that need to be able to express themselves, that need to be able to be given a space that they would never be given outside of us. Yeah. And so when I think something that he said that might have intimidated a lot of people, that would have been like, well, how churchy is it going to be though? To me, it wasn't, because there's nothing that I should be ashamed about my work. Yeah. And there's nothing that I'm doing outside this church in the classrooms that I'm not proud of. And I will present my work in front of anybody, including a church, because I'm doing good work. That's right. And we're doing good work. And that's the thing is that at the end of the day, I was given a talent and I was given the ability to connect, and I have accountability to my communities and me, 15-year-old me, waiting for someone to come through the door and allowing me to write a poem. Because before then, all they were talking about was survival and playing your role, and maybe one day you can go to college and get a good job. That's as far as we got. Those were the talks. Yeah. Those were the talks. Guys, maybe one day you'll have a house. Like, why can't I be an astronaut? Yeah. And I think for me to be able to go into a classroom and allow these students to dream and allow these students to create during the school day in the middle of a neighborhood that is not letting them dream, that doesn't allow poetry and art and things like that, I think for us, that is humongous. And so that's why I was never intimidated by working with a church when it comes to Iconoclast work, because we're doing good work.
See, I think that's the limitation. I think it's so sad that the limitation has come when we talk about church. It's such a loaded word.
Yeah.
What you do in the classroom is faith. It is.
I agree.
You know, we talk about church. It's like all summer. It's like, when's the church going to open? You know, why is the church still closed? It's like, church's not closed. What do you think it's? You think just us sitting in Sunday morning in a worship service? That's only church. We, you know, out at the food pantry at Fairhaven's, we're up to like getting close to 200,000 people that have been fed with the Houston Food Bank and resourcing families and helping with rent relief. I'm like, that's the church.
Yeah.
So it's like the mindset, we got to change the language. We got to help people change the language, but it's the church's fault because we've done these exact same things. And the church is in the club.
Yeah.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
Jesus was here. He not coming sitting in here.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to go out into the byways and the highways in the community where people are that he said, I didn't come to help the people who are well. I came to help the people who were sick, you know, who were broken, who were in the margins. If Jesus is here. He's not coming sitting in a pew on Sunday morning.
I wonder, too, if we have a crisis of imagination when it comes to this. And this is why I think it's the artists that are going to lead the way out of this crisis. Because often what the church sees is only what it's been given. This is what youth group looks like. And so this is what youth work is, right? And then you meet artists that are doing amazing work outside of the church. And you realize, and when you and I met, I was like, you're deeply spiritual. You have more to teach us about you working with youth in our city than anybody I've met, right? And so then the question is, can the church move outside of its boundedness and desire to control and desire to then brand and then to desire to then, you know, all of those kinds of things? Can we join what God is doing in the world to redeem, to love, to free, to resource? And that doesn't have boundaries. That doesn't have an institution. Now, if institutions will come alongside and help resource that and give to that, that's the work of the church.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do on every angle.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that I teach my students is you can't be afraid of people. You know, which is ironic because then you have the educated people that are scared of people as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they stick to their sides of towns, they stick to their safe areas, but we do the same on the other side of the track. My kids, you put them in the worst neighborhood and they will navigate. They know how to navigate through gangs. They know how to, you put them at the Galleria with a resume and a job interview and they freak out. Yeah. You know, and it's the same thing. You know, there's a comfort to oppression. There's a comfort to knowing what tomorrow's going to bring, even if I'm struggling. Like, even if I'm struggling, there's still a comfort to that. Yeah. You know? And I think it's on both ends of, like, it's about opening minds and really, like, what's the worst thing that can happen, you know? Of having a conversation with someone and starting that conversation. And I challenge my students all the time. I have this good morning challenge. You have to tell everyone good morning. And then you write down the most interesting responses from those good mornings. And I had a student write a good morning, a lesson that he did where his neighbor just has called the cops on him, always, his neighbor just hates him. One day he's like, good morning. And she looked at him and, good morning. And then the next day, good morning. She was like, good morning. And then the next day, good morning. And she gave him sweetbread. And she was like, here you go for school. Mm-hmm. And now they talk all the time from a good morning, you know. And I see it. I think it's on both ends. I think it's the people that are, fear is a comfort thing, you know, and so is oppression. Yeah. It's a comfort thing. I know who I don't want to be around. I know what people I don't want around me. I know, you know?
Yeah. We're human beings. We get very comfortable. So, what else?
We've got a couple of videos we can show.
Oh, I love videos.
Let's do it.
Hey.
Wait, is that Erykah Badu?
Yeah.
I didn't know we were supposed to show clips of celebrities. I have a ton of celebrity clips.
Are we name dropping now? I've got some. No.
So that's me in the studio with Erykah Badu in February.
Where was this, Chris?
In Dallas.
Dallas?
Yeah.
Was this her tour?
She does a concert every year for her birthday in Dallas, and through Red Bull, they hired me to dance with her.
Are you still dancing with Corey at all?
Yeah, it's a short clip, but yeah. Shout out to Marlon. He opened the door for me to be in a relationship with Red Bull.
Okay.
So through Red Bull, they hired me to perform with Erykah Badu. That was the best experience as an artist I've had.
What you got here?
This is the world famous Marlon and Havikoro.
We need to put this in the show notes.
Let's go.
This is a clip. This is a bunch of clips of Marlon. I love this. I think my kids might be responsible for about 3,000 of these views out of the 11,000 this year.
Is this like a battle?
Yeah.
No room for error, my man.
So all of these are like clips from all over the place.
Is that an Iverson shirt you've got on?
Yeah.
I love it.
This is in Italy.
Nice.
Ding.
I plan on taking that from you, by the way.
Man, you know how much? Do you know how much Advil I'd have to take?
You know, it's the cool thing about all of these movements is that they're so original that, you know, in breaking is all about creating original movement that has never existed and showing everybody's like, yo, this is what I do. And it's so instead of fighting, you know, you battle, you know, and it's just about being as spontaneous, as strong.
So,
have you ever met Lay Twins or know who they are?
Yeah, we just did something with them here in Houston with Red Bull. Yeah.
So when you do a battle, like you come out and then the other one comes out.
Yeah, so it's about reacting to what's in front of you, and it's just basically a big anything you can do, I can do better than you. You know.
I still want to do. I would still love to do a Thursday night.
Oh,
here.
I tell you what, man. I invite everyone to challenge your body, man. I think for some reason when people hit a certain age, they stop moving, and so your body stops moving. And so that's one thing that I love about breaking. It's you see all these competitions and battles, but sometimes it's just about moving. So I still practice once a week minimum. You know, we still dance, we still get down because if you
competed this year.
We competed at Battle of the Year, which is the biggest breaking battle in the world, and all these different countries, over 40 countries go to compete in this. We took third place again. So we took third place 20 years ago in this exact same competition.
Are you serious?
And the same people from our group went to compete this year. 20 years later. So, I mean, you're talking, like, I had a kid come up to me, he's like, yo, can I have a picture with you? I've been watching you since I was 5 years old. And he was like 20. And I'm like, yo.
I'm feeling old now.
First of all, you don't talk to me like that. But I mean, it's so beautiful.
You know when they come up and go, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. No, but it's so beautiful that this dance thing, like, it's allowed me to keep moving. And so that's what I challenge people all the time, whether it's yoga, capoeira, whether it's just move. You got to go move. Because once you stop using your body, man, your body stops.
Use it or lose it.
Yes,
That's
sir.
it. That's it. You got to move. I tell people
I feel
all the time.
convicted now.
CrossFit. You and me.
CrossFit.
Or
I don't know.
get a bike.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to start. I think I'm going to start.
Go swimming.
Yeah.
Walking.
Yeah.
Let's start with a walk, John.
I'm going to get up off this chair.
Get out of the chair.
This chair
Here's
right
your
here.
challenge. If you can take 10,000 steps a day, like that's the
Right.
challenge. 10,000 steps.
10,000.
But I think
How
it's
many
such
steps
a...
have I had today? Hold on, let me look. Oh, 275.
Really? Hey, what time is it?
I think it's a blessing, though. It's a blessing to be able to move and create. And I think at a time where, you know, I think I told my mom one day I wanted to play baseball, and she was like, we can't afford that. Go outside. Do something else. And so when we found breaking, all you need is a floor. And that's it.
That's awesome.
That's all you need, and so that's what we got.
So real quick as we wrap up, so we are working on some new creative stuff as far as we're calling it a new worship opportunity, but it's a very creative, different. I mean, starting online. I mean, you guys want to just real quick, kind of what you're doing, what you're looking at. I mean, I know there's a lot of work and discussion and dialogue. We're at the beginning stages of all this.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really bringing in artists and folks that have been working in the community as different kind of forms of artists and folks that are engaging with other communities, and bringing them in to teach and help, and then also to shape what this new worship experience will be. It'll be highly visual. It'll be deeply kind of interactive. There's going to be great music throughout. We'll start really with it being online, so that it'll be, we're going to use, if folks have been watching online, the poets, Iconoclast poets, that we used in the series this last month that'll be central to that, and we'll be telling stories in different ways, using music in different ways. We're doing that online for a while until we kind of get through COVID, and then and be gathering around the city in different ways. We'll do some house parties. We'll also do just some house gatherings of just kind of some home worship stuff that we'll do as we build kind of a community and connection, and then we'll launch this when it's safe to launch. But we'll be able to offer it online before that.
That's great.
And I do want to say thank you to the people that have reached out to me from Chapelwood about the poetry. I've been getting emails from people that have listened to it.
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I think as an artist, that's the way that I interpret things into poetry. But, man, I really appreciate just the feedback that I've been getting from just the most randomest people. Like, you know, hey, you don't know me, but this line that you wrote, or can you send me the lyrics to this poem? Like, that's so beautiful,
So
man.
beautiful,
That's so
Marlon.
beautiful, because when you think that, you know, when this project came up and Matt told me to do it, I jumped on it quick, because I feel that I'm on a spiritual journey myself, you know. And so for me to combine art and my spirituality and my journey, I think to me that's the most important part.
It's just a new space. It's new land.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's have some new people working the land, tilling the land, planting some seeds, and new things are going to grow.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really exciting about all of this. So there'll be more to come soon.
More to come.
Breaking news.
What to?
I know, we're the sound effects over here.
I don't know what's going on right
We like the sound. Yeah, you got
follow me on Instagram, Young Chris, YU in the Urban Way, YUNGCHRISHK, or you can go to my website. It's the professional me. That's ChristopherThomas.org, and that's the common way, ChristopherThomas.org.
I do want to say that we are going to create an Iconoclast sessions that we want to base it out of Chapelwood. Super excited. If you've never been to an Iconoclast sessions, it's two poets doing poetry, sharing stories and things like that, and it's super awesome. I'm so excited to do the first one out of Chapelwood.
That's awesome.
I want to. The upper room is so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You feel in love with that room, dude.
yeah, that
You're like,
place is awesome.
hey.
Well, anyways, yeah, I want to utilize that room. But what we want to do is we want to create a safe place for people to come live, but also do a great way to do a live stream of it. And so excited. And I'm just excited because it's awesome. It's an awesome event. They get to see poets and writers from all over Houston and Texas that are really doing some great work. So that should be in October or early November.
Congratulations.
I'm super excited about
Invite
it.
me.
And I can't wait for you guys to see it. I can't.
I'm DJing.
Oh yeah, and Young Chris will be
It's
DJing.
always our DJ.
But I can't wait to put it together to like where, you know, I can't wait for Chapelwood to see it.
That's
I'm
awesome.
hyped. I'm hyped because it's a great, it's something cool, you know.
That's cool.
Nice.
And every time we've done these, we usually have had a high school art class from a local high school that'll be involved. I don't know if we'll be able to do that the first one in terms of the social distancing. But we've always employed other folks in the community to come and be a part of it. So it's just going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
That brings up, please send me the information early. I have a student that graduated last year that got into poetry. he's a dancer that also he told me to the side. He's like, yo man, like come check out my poetry. Like I do this. So I think he's gaining the confidence, like he gained the confidence in dance. So I definitely want to bring him to this. So
let me know. For us, is we want to show the power of the arts, but also just the connectiveness of stories, and I think it goes back to that, like our grandparents telling us stories and our parents telling us stories. So I love that. I love connecting people in that way. So I'm super excited. Look out for it. It's coming soon.
Well, thanks for being with us, guys.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
guys.
you for having me.
I'm John Stevens.
And I'm Matt Russell.
Marlon and Lizama.
Young Chris.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.
That's a cool name. I didn't know.